Hello and welcome to ActivTrades Weekly Outlook. A fairly quiet week for economic news across the globe this week, certainly compared to others just recently. In addition, many of the big earnings reports have all come and gone, although there are a few that many investors enjoy keeping a close eye on. One of which is Disney. And while investors will be hoping to see increased streaming and parks admissions revenue, some are remaining cautious. According to Zacks Investment Research, the consensus EPS forecast for the quarter is 69 cents, based on the projections of 10 analysts. For the same quarter last year, reported earnings per share were 0.3. Let's dive in. Services PMIs are due for a number of countries across the day, including Japan, Spain, Italy, France, Germany and the EU. While the service industry had been enjoying strong growth in recent years, following the pandemic, many countries are seeing a gradual decline in their indices as monetary policy conditions have tightened. Most forecasts this week expect levels below the par level of 50 for October. The Ivey Purchasing Managers Index in Canada increased to 53.1 in September from 53.5 in August and surpassed market expectations. The most recent reading indicated a second consecutive month of modest economic expansion, albeit at a slower rate, primarily due to a decline in inventories. When the newest data is made available on Monday, analysts expect a further decline to around 52.1. Major earnings releases to include TripAdvisor Incorporated and Eurofins Scientific SE. Although China's trade surplus in September was $77.7 billion, down from $82.7 billion in the same period in 2022, it still beat market expectations of $70 billion due to the fact that both exports and imports fell at the same rate. This reflected the country's persistently weak demand at home and abroad. The new report, which is due on Tuesday, is expected to show an increase in the surplus to around $81 billion for October. The Reserve Bank of Australia is due to meet for its November monetary policy meeting this week, with the decision statement to be released on Tuesday as well. According to the minutes from its most recent meeting, the RBA debated raising cash rates in October, but ultimately opted to keep them stable for the fourth consecutive month. During Michelle Bullock's first monetary policy meeting as governor, members remarked the monthly CPI index showed that progress in decreasing services price inflation in the country remained modest. Given the likelihood that inflation would continue over target for some time, they also recognized that upside risks posed a serious worry. This week, analysts expect a further pause in the cycle. The US trade balance is due out on Tuesday. The deficit narrowed to $58.3 billion in August, the lowest level since September 2020, and less than the $62.3 billion deficit that was anticipated. The gap is expected to widen to around $60.3 billion for September. Major earnings releases to include Uber, UBS, Devon Energy Corp, eBay, Engie, Capgemini. Preliminary estimates for Germany's inflation figures are due to be confirmed on Wednesday morning. These estimates will likely reveal that annual German consumer price inflation dropped to 3.8% in October, down sharply from the 4.5% recorded in September, and somewhat below the market consensus of 4%. As food inflation slowed to its lowest level since February 2022, overall inflation fell to its lowest level since August 2021. The Bank of Canada releases its Summary of Deliberations from its most recent monetary policy meeting on Wednesday. The BOC emphasized that future rate decisions would be based on the most recent economic data, while maintaining its goal for its overnight rate at 5% in its October 2023 meeting, keeping borrowing rates at a 22-year high as generally predicted by financial markets. Major earnings releases to include Walt Disney, Airbus, Bayer, Adidas AG, Legrand SA, Telefonica SA, Kellogg Co., Continental AG, Credit Agricole and Coty. Chinese inflation data is due to be published on Thursday. China's consumer prices were steady year-over-year in September after a 0.1% decrease in the previous month and falling short of the market estimate, a 0.2% increase. The newest statistics showed continued deflationary pressures in the world's second largest economy, heightening worries about the economic recovery's longevity owing to slow demand. However, the new data for October is expected to show growth of around 0.2% annually and 0.2% month-over-month. China's producer prices have also been in decline recently, falling 2.5% year-over-year in September, however, moderating from the previous month's 3% drop. It was the 12th consecutive month of producer deflation last month, however, if forecasts are correct, there could be a slight improvement on the way around to -1.1% for October. The latest figures are due out on Thursday. Major earnings releases to include AstraZeneca, Sony, Deutsche Telekom, Veolia, JCDecaux. A range of preliminary UK GDP data is due to be released on Friday. up from an initial estimate of 0.4%, and after an upwardly revised 0.5% increase in the prior period, the United Kingdom's GDP rose by 0.6% year-over-year in the second quarter of 2023. Forecasts for the third quarter are suggesting a dip to around minus 0.6% year-over-year and 0.1% growth for the month of September. In October, the preliminary reading of 63 for the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index for the US was revised upwards to 63.8. Nonetheless, the result represented a significant decline from the previous month's reading of 68.1 to the lowest levels since May. When the new data is made available on Friday, economists expect a slight improvement to around 65 for November. Major earnings releases to include Allianz. That's all for this week. If you would like to read the full outlook, please visit the analysis section on our website. Happy trading!